We have an article up on the Sabbath, and we talk about that in detail. And there's all kinds of calendars. That's another thing that gets into the Sabbath, the calendar issue. And I'm not a calendar guy. I've had guys who've studied it in great detail. The fact is the people that were most like Christ and most in agreement with Christ at the time of Israel was not using the lunar calendar. So then I would have to err on their side a little bit. But they weren't all even using the same one either, because they had no homogeneous group. The fact is the Sabbath was made for man, and again, the Sabbath is the day of rest. The church did often meet on Sunday, but that was because what were they doing in those meetings? We have detailed account of their meetings in 150 AD. They were doing and asking amongst themselves who was going to need food before the end of the week. Before the Sabbath is your day of rest. It wasn't necessary. We convened in that rest. But the church was a government. It's where they went for their social welfare. So yeah, they met and they said, who has needs? Who didn't make it to the meeting this time because maybe they were too sick or too ill? They would send diaconesses out there to make sure they had enough food. Their Holy Eucharist were sacks of bread and grain to get them through famines. The Eucharist means thanksgiving. It was those that had, and I'm quoting right here from the account of those meetings, from Justin's Apology. Those that had shared with those that did not have. Because there was no other welfare system for them. There were plenty of welfare systems around. Rome had one. Free bread and circuses. But Christians didn't go there because that free bread was provided by benefactors who exercised authority one over the other. And they knew they weren't supposed to be that way. So that's what they were doing in church on Sunday, was the business of government. Because they were governing themselves by faith, hope, and charity. They had already had their day of rest on the Sabbath. Most of the early church, for centuries, they recognized the Sabbath. That was something that came in later. Now, I don't want to make a religion out of either day. I want people, I often tell people, it's more what you do the other 6 days of the week that make the Sabbath blessed. Not so much that you sit around and do nothing. I encourage people to take a Sabbath, a day of rest. If I go and meet with 150 people on the Sabbath, it ain't no day of rest for me. So I like to have that day of rest where I go and maybe fall asleep with a book on my chest that I couldn't even get to the first page of because I've already worked the other 6 days. So that's my take on it. We have a lot of people that still use Sabbath. We have a lot of people that still use this Sunday. When they're ready, let God bring them into agreement. I'm not going to impose a liturgy on them.